Now, with cultural relativism, we've looked at the differences argument, right? There's some problems there. Think about that. Some people say, well, the reason why I embrace cultural relativism is one that's connected to, good old-fashioned virtue that Aristotle talked about and philosophers have talked about for centuries now. Virtues, right? Proper dispositions of the soul, proper attitudes, proper ways of thinking about things. Tolerance is a virtue. I'm going to be tolerant. So I'm going to be tolerant of other cultures. I don't want to be someone who's intolerant. After all, history is full of terrible intolerance. I don't want to be like that, and I want to be better than that. So, in that sense, people think that the way to be better about other cultures is to be more tolerant. And so, this is a good way of being tolerant. Is saying, okay, well, what do you do over there? And not to bring what we do here over there and then demand that everybody follow what one group does or whatever. It's just basically, let people live their lives and communities make their own minds up. So, and that would be a tolerant way to go. And coupled to that is like you don't express contempt for other societies. That's a terrible thing to do. People did that in the past. Look what happened. Disastrous, catastrophic things happened. So in that sense, some people may not be leaning too much on this, but just say, look, cultural relativism is really at heart, it's tolerance, and don't we want that? Pretty hard to argue with the idea of tolerance in and of itself. But let's think a little bit more about this. If you do really embrace all this, like what exactly is tolerance? You want to reflect on that. Does tolerance may mean something different than simply agreement? You could, we often say, how can you tolerate that? You hate it, but you tolerate it. So you can dislike things that you tolerate. That doesn't mean to tolerate doesn't mean that you like. So you could say, that I am going to, pass judgments or whatever. So you can still judge and be tolerant, right? Tolerance, you want to be starting to think about this as a more subtle notion than tolerance as just agreement, which it's not, right? The whole idea of tolerance is, in fact, that you actually disagree, but you don't take action against something. So you may tolerate some things I'm saying. You don't like them. You've judged them to be wrong, but you don't take any action against it. You don't punish me for it. And likewise, I may tolerate stuff you say, and I don't take any action, but I still disagree with it. So, the idea of tolerance meaning that you have to hand over or think of I don't contempt, right? Well, is just has to go out the window because any kind of judgment is contempt. That too is a little too fast. So to equate tolerance with agreement is problematic. To equate disagreement with something as contempt, that's pretty fast too. So this one seems to be a little bit too much in the sense of saying that all forms of societies have to be simply agreed with, right? In the name of some kind of tolerance. So that's a bit of a confusion of various concepts. So you want to think about this in terms of the various concepts that are embedded in the notion of tolerance. And one is, yeah, you can tolerate and disagree all you like. You can judge and think something is wrong. And that doesn't necessarily make you an intolerant person because you've judged. Now, I've looked a little bit at why some people lean towards cultural relativism. Does that mean that I've shown that it's not a way to go? Not really. So we have to think of what all this really adds up to. And again, it's got to keep our wits about us and reflecting on these things.